Your staff and volunteer program can make all the difference between a really good experience for you and your participants versus a terrible one. And for this video, I'm really excited because this is something special. I've been collaborating with one of the best staff and volunteer managers I know to make this video. Her name is Barbara Joó from Hungary, and she's been involved in some of the most iconic events in the swing dance community. I'm talking about Lindy Shock in Hungary. I'm talking about Chase Festival here in Heidelberg, as well as the Herang Dance Camp in Sweden, which is one of the longest running mega events in our community. And there she's head of staff and volunteer program. And although I'm the one who's presenting this content to you, the true knowledge is coming from Barbara Joó, or as we call her, Barbie. And if you want to have a great staff and volunteer manager at your event, I think you should reach out to her. Nobody knows this as well as she does. And let's get started. Here we go. The first thing I want to bring up is that a good staff and volunteer program has an emergent property, meaning it's not a follow these 3 steps and you get a good program. It's something that emerges out of a lot of back and forth tweaking and reviewing what you have and what you want and stuff like that. So you want to understand what are the needs that you want to fulfill, and of course, what means do you have to fulfill these. So you want to start with collecting information around that without making any decisions. What we can start with is to collect your schedules and understanding what are the time slots that you need to meet and what are the means you have. So you want obviously your event schedule. I haven't made a dedicated event schedule video yet, but the one where I go into the event budgeting, there we talk a lot about the schedule as well, because I believe the budget and the schedules are very intertwined with each other. From there, you also want to have your first rough version of your volunteer schedule, just to get a sense of what you need to be dealing with. You can borrow the template that Barbie is giving us, where you sort of create a timeline in 10-minute intervals. Here, you sort of give give that rough main event schedule for each day, and then you put the names of the different people involved, what roles they want to do, what time of the day, and then you just mark each role that you need to fulfill. And the way this is set up is like if you write a text, whether it's an X or actually content, it sort of calculates the time and duration you've been asking them to work for, so you can sort of control that towards your agreement that you've done with them. If we take, for example, Saturday of Chase Festival, you can see that this whole thing can get a little bit monstrous. But the easy thing with the spreadsheets like this is that a person just look for the name, go down the list. But again, spreadsheets are terrible platforms for this, because you can't, there's not data points, you can't send notifications around it, no reminders or anything like that. And that is actually one of the things we are solving for with Full Event, where you can give each participant a detailed schedule, so you can have they can have their own sort of program where they see their morning schedule, the sessions they involved, or if they're also doing other tasks. And then inside of those, you can actually leave instructions to them. And this is something I'm really excited to get out. Now, by doing this work, you sort of get an idea of what roles and responsibilities that you need to fulfill. From there, you can start collecting the interest by, for example, already in the sign up form where people are signing up for the event or festival, you can ask, leave a check mark if they want to come as a volunteer. And then from there, you sort of build a volunteer form that you send out to all the people you gathered up as volunteer. And a volunteer form looks like this, where this is the one from Chase Festival, where you sort of leave some instructions. And in this case, we had already sort of worked out some of the fundamentals, where we know we needed day volunteers, the night volunteers, late night volunteers, party volunteers. So we could already sort of give them some estimates of what sort of work to be that we need to have done. And this is why you need to go through this work in a few iterations and have the emergence to come, and have this to be something that comes out of that as an emergent quality. And this was actually run by Barbie, as you can see here, because she was the one who was managing that for Chase Festival. But we start with asking the basic information about who they are, where they're coming from. In our case, because we have so many, such a large staff and volunteer program for the festival, we actually already also there paid attention to the lead and follow ratio, because for us it was important that that is respected not just in classes but also at the party. So we ask for it also for a volunteer, because if we wouldn't, they alone are so many that they can tilt the whole experience off by too much for our taste. Same, you look at the experience level they have as dancers, for example. And again, depending on what kind of event you're running, you have your own things you need to ask for. This totally adapted to us. But specific information of date and arrival time and departure time, then you can ask them if they have any preference of any of these roles, but also some specifics. Are they okay with dealing with reception work, handling money? Do they want to help the staff and teachers? Do they want to be involved in the merchandise part of it? Are they creative? Do they want to deal with the decorational stuff? Do they want to just help with tear down and build up? Technical support, DJing, media, and then we'd like to also hear from in their own words what they think we should know about them, or why they want to participate. That all helps us a lot to sort of decide who we want to make a decision with. I'm going to come back to the outcome of that later. So now that we've given our first attempt to figure out what schedule we have and what we want to fulfill, we can move on to the other side. What means do we have to do the fulfilling? Here, I want to start with sharing an idea that I learned from this book called Predictable Irrational by Dan Ariely. And in this, he's talking about the understanding between entering a relationship with your participant or community or customers that are goodwill mindset based or cost benefit mindset based. And that makes all the difference. But it's basically about whether you want to have a community, warmth, long-term relationship or long-term exchange, or finding clear market norms and it's an immediate exchange. And for example, if you're running a business or a dance school and a local community, you want to be careful with, for example, applying concepts like bring a friend and get a 10-year discount, right? That cost puts you directly in a cost benefit mindset. Whereas if you want your community to fundamentally always be thinking about who they can bring into your community, then you actually want to be in goodwill mindset. So then you don't want to play these games of bring your friend for 10-year discount. Rather, there you want to create opportunities where bringing a friend is easy, right? So you have to play that game in different ways. But so you want to sort of understand what mindset do you want to bring to your community. For a workshop, I would be careful to be in the goodwill mindset, or a festival, a larger festival, because you don't want to run into a situation where you have a lot of volunteers, but you can't put demand on them if it's a goodwill mindset. So it's gonna be like 20 people want to bake cakes and nobody want to help with setup or reception or tear down or whatever. So sometimes it's the cost benefit mindset is just more practical to get the job done. But you can't sort of hobble between them. It's a relationship you set. What Dan Ariely was saying in Predictably Irrational was that they did this experiment with a kindergarten where they were having this problem that parents were picking up their children too late. And of course, that was annoying for staff because they wanted to go home. So they were trying to figure out, okay, let's put on a delay fee for picking when you're picking up your children too late. And this gonna deter people from coming too late. In fact, not only did they not care about that delay, but the delay became worse, because what happened is that, and this is what I discovered, is that before, the parents were in a goodwill mindset and they felt guilty when they were delayed, and because they knew the disconvenience that was placed upon the staff of the kindergarten. But so they were still trying to rush and make it happen. But once they provided a delay fee, well, they ended up in a cost benefit mindset, and they said, oh, well, I'm okay with being delayed. I just pay that extra fee and don't feel guilty about it. So the problem became worse. And then when they switched back, they couldn't actually get back to this because everybody was still stuck on this mindset. So it's something that you have to be careful, because it's not so easy to hop between these two mindsets. It's either you have this relationship or you have that relationship, and that's why we have to always be a little bit careful about that. What are your constraints? This is, I said it in another video, is one of my favorite topics. A constraint is basically you want to look at what throughput do you want to get, how much things do you want to come get on the other side. Now, for an event, maybe that's the volume of participants, maybe it's financial reward, like, and based on that, you need to understand what are the things that prevents you from maximizing, for example, revenue, maximizing from participants or impact or whatever that is. So event capacity is, for example, one of those things. If your event has endless capacity, or you know you're nowhere near selling out, then that is a lever that you have that you can offer to your volunteers and staff members. Help us with this, get that. But actually, this whole thing changes if you know you're gonna sell out the event, because every time you give away something, then you're also now missing out on the income that you would make on that. And the question is, which one is more cost efficient, or the one you want to pull on? The accommodation capacity. This is, for example, if you have the possibility to set up huge tents, or you have a gym and everybody can sleep in the gym, you might be able to say, okay, like, free accommodation for whatever reason, and that's a lever that you have. Or it costs you very little to provide those accommodations, but the value for the consumer is very high. So that's a lever you can pull. But on the other hand, for example, we organized an event in south of France called Swing Summit. There we had limited capacity to about 60 people. So we actually didn't have the opportunity to work with volunteers too much, because yeah, it's like every spot counted for us. We needed to be very careful with how we gave those out. Travel capacity. If you're organizing shuttle services, or bus organizing, that people come from one city to the other city with a bus, and you have a lot of capacity there, then use that. At Chase Festival, for example, we had organized a professional solution for getting people from the airport to Heidelberg. So we had always a little bit extra capacity, so we could use that as a lever to provide as a bonus service to people who wanted to support us in different ways. Food and drink capacity. This is, for example, I mean, everybody knows cost of making food is sometimes lower than, I mean, hopefully it's lower than what the consumers are paying for that food. So it's the cost for you of delivering it is maybe different than the value to the consumer. So that's a trade-off that you can pull and have as a lever. But actually, sometimes it's not about that. One of the things I learned from Chase Festival is something that Disney sort of popularized, and that is the concept of size of wallet. At Disneyland, they realized that in some of their cities, most people who travel to that city travels because of Disneyland. But Disneyland was just getting the amount of the budget that was dedicated for Disneyland. But there is the travel, there's the food, there's a hotel, and all these other things. So the true budget was 4 times more than the actual thing that they were paying for Disneyland. So they were like, well, we are creating all these attractions for people to come here. We want a bigger size of that budget. So that's when they started their hotel solutions. They started their restaurants and all these different experiences. So it became a more holistic experience, and of course that increased their revenue a lot. Now at Chase Festival, the situation was a little bit comical, funny, I don't know, different. The thing is, like, the main venue we were working with, this the Stadthalle in Heidelberg, gorgeous place. I was super happy with working with them, but they had an exclusive deal with a catering company who was having their facilities inside of this building. Even though they're not the same business, there was this tight symbiosis between them. And it took me a few editions to understand how important it was for me to please also the catering company. If they didn't feel like they got enough revenue out of us, then they would push for kicking us out if the moment another deal came over on their table. So when another company, Heidelberg Druck, wanted to have a big event, actually this happened to us where they were trying to kick us out because they come in with a shit ton of money, and we could not match that, and we were not making them happy with the amount of business we were bringing. So I learned I need to make them happy as well. One of the things I realized, size of wallet. So having all our staff and people who are working with us as artists and so on, have them each go to the eating at the hotels, eating at the restaurants, having a drink here, having a coffee there. So all this money was distributed a little bit across the whole city. Great for the city, but I needed to please these partners. So I brought all of that money in-house. I made a special deal with the catering company. We had a room that is for catering of our staff. So at a big number of hours during the day and evening, there were food available, really nice food, I must say, as well. And it ended up being a really good win-win situation where our people working with us and sort of supporting the festival, they could go there and eat even multiple times if they wanted to. And whatever food that was left over, I brought backstage, so people who stayed until early morning, they could snack on that food all night through, so to say. So it really ended up being a really nice experience. And also in terms of bookkeeping, instead of having all these 50 plus volunteers, and I don't know, also 50 about artists that we were working with, like having all of them bring me small receipts from restaurants and stuff like that. It ended up actually being cheaper eventually because through that volume I could make better deals, but I had one invoice to deal with. So much easier. Everybody within this organization sort of won. So you have to sometimes think about that experience, but also then it became another lever I pulled that way. It wasn't cheaper as like if we cook ourselves, then it's just the cost of the ingredients. I had to actually pay the catering company cost of catering prices. But as part of the budget of being able to satisfy that partnership that was important to me, I could use that as a lever to bring more people into that direction. So then you want to basically understand the market value of each of these constraints that you're having, because that sort of helps you understand how do you want to price the exchange that you want to do. And each of them as an organizer is a lever that you can use for different kind of exchange, whether it's exchange for the accommodation, the coming just for one part of the event, and understanding how all of this is affecting your revenue. Let me quickly interrupt myself to ask you for this favor. Now, I'm committed to take the 19 years of experience I have from this and put it into these videos to share with you as much as I know about organizing events, running dance schools, building teams, running communities, so that you can do an even better job making all of that happening for you. And what could really help me is if you do all this social media magic stuff, subscribe, like, comment, share with somebody that you think could benefit from these videos. You can choose your favorite video or the whole playlist or the organizer's checklist. Anything that spreads the message and the channel will help me tremendously. All right, much appreciated. Back to the video. Now, then you want to also look at it from resources. So the resources is coming from actually like fundamentally, are you a for-profit or a non-profit association or entity? That makes a huge difference. No matter what, if this is something Barbara is passionate about, if you can pay people, pay people. Like, if I can share one of my own rants, is that as an artist, it has happened a few times where I get approached by a nonprofit association who want to create an event, and they start to pull the, oh, but we're an association card, and they want a discount. But only to find out that at the end of the year, they throw this lavish party because they always end up with a ton of money that they need to spend because they're a nonprofit association and can't hold on to it or distribute it. So So they just basically waste the money at the end of the year. So throughout the year, they've been sort of chipping out on all the artists and not paying them full rates, only to sort of waste it at the end of the year. And think about it like this: if you're a nonprofit association, your purpose is to uh, support and grow a community. Are you doing that when you're making those requests from your artists who are relying on that money in order to um, be able to function and in some terms of honing their skills, being able to provide better experiences, and trust that this money will support them throughout the year and hopefully also as a pension, right? Of course, this is not always the case. Sometimes a nonprofit association really has no money and they still want to try to organize something and rely on the positive karma that you get as an artist. So this is case by case. So you have to understand where you are on that. But Barbie is also understanding like how much work you're doing as an organizer to for a festival, and also the risk you are carrying around this. So when you're thinking about your profit loss statements and your um, budgeting, you need to put the time, you need to calculate your time, and you need to calculate the value of that time as well as part of these things. And this is something I was trying to bring up in the previous video I did, where that's not an easy game to play. That on its own is a whole challenge to figure out how can all of these things work together. Sometimes it works because you do a great job and you sell out your event and you left enough profit, so a buffer that you can make your money, you can pay everybody properly. Sometimes you can't, and then you have to sort of be more creative. But apropos creative, I'm not giving you legal advice. So whenever you go a creative path and work with exchanges and stuff like that, you still have to understand what is within the legal realm of the kind of association or entity you have, as well as how that works in your own country. These videos are for your entertainment. You need to look that up for yourself and try to understand, like, does the thing somebody else is doing works in your country? Being in Germany, for example, there are a lot of things we cannot do that works even in our neighbor country like France, for example, right? If you have enough money to pay everybody, then, like Barbie said, then just take that approach. It saves a lot of hassle. Everybody's most happy when they feel they're paid properly. So that's a good way of going about it. But then also, can you create some special experiences? For example, what they do in Herang that I find is quite creative is they have special class or tracks for their workshop that is just meant for staff. Part of it is because, again, it's cheaper for them to create a lot of value that way, but part of them is also because staff is often not able to take their regular program. So this is one way to be able to make sure they create activities and experiences that works for the schedule they have provided their volunteers and staff. Can you offer a career development? I know myself, I got a few key huge opportunities as I was sort of getting first into becoming a professional artist, and without them I would not build the career that I have eventually. So it's a really important one. I actually want to make a special video, so I don't want to give away the punchline for that, but that is a real thing. Just the opportunity of the exposure is a real thing, but it's also real that many people misabuse this. So I want to make a separate conversation about that. Opportunity to participate. What I mean with this is that for many people, the only way they have a chance to come and enjoy this experience is if they have a chance to subsidize the price of coming, whether it's subsidizing the whole thing from flight, hotel, food, as well as the event, or if it's just the event or whatever deal. So depending on your values and who you want to have at the event, you want to consider, is there anything you can do for a group of people who you really want to have, but they would never be able to afford it or consider it simply because of that challenge. goodwill. This is, for example, the ability to create, use the experience that you created in order to increase goodwill with some partners. I mentioned this before, where you, for example, take your key people in your community, whether it's the governor or whether it's the business owners you want to build a relationship with, and invite them for this event, or other long-term partners you have within your own community. So, but still there, for yourself, understand the market value of what it is you're bringing to the table, so you can, with good conscience, look at those trade-offs and say, yes, this is a fair deal I'm making. No, this is not a fair deal I'm making. So you just have a clear understanding of that. So you want to know what your constraints are, but you also want to know what is it your staff and volunteers value, right? So for example, do they value the classes? Do they value the parties? Do they value the opportunity for that they are creating? So you want to understand that, and for maybe those are different people, and you create different offers for each of those those people, and then that defines a little bit whether you create a staff and volunteer program that is, for example, split by work the day, get the evening, or vice versa, or get fully paid, or get a reduction, or you just want to support because you want to support as a full concept of volunteering. And that's where you get into this sort of cyclical process where there's an emergence that happens that is that good staff and volunteer program or an exchange that you're having. So you want to tinker. Sometimes you want to change the schedule. Like, for example, in Herang, they're like, okay, let's just add on the side of the regular program, let's just add the volunteers track. At Chase Festival, we had something just for organizers, right? So that changes the actual schedule sometimes to create more excitement to get the people you want to get to your event. And of course, so that that you have to tweak around on your schedule, you have to tweak around on your offer, you have to tweak around on the packages that you're creating from there. In Herang, for example, you either work 8 hours and are paid, and or you volunteer for 4 hours unpaid, and in exchange, for example, for the unpaid ones is the volunteer and is a food and accommodation that you get, party entrance probably as well. And these are, for example, the party entrance is something, it's like they have endless capacity, sort of. They don't really, but I can imagine that's a little bit how that trade-off is handled. The accommodation, big tents, triple bunker beds, and it's fine. Many people just accept that and deal with it. And the food, they are responsible for their own food, so it's a great opportunity. And many of the people who, like most people who are taking this option, they wouldn't been able to experience this experience without that offer. So it is a real nice deal. For Chase Festival, we actually chose to create market values for these and just pay people back. And this is something, this is why I wanted to bring this up, where in our case, we decided to do the following, where everybody, participant or volunteer, they all signed up to the things they wanted to and paid full. And then what we did at the end of the event, we paid them back and invoiced them whatever that was needed in order to give them back what they volunteered, basically. So the exchange became much more clean. Obviously, we went into the transactional mindset, but it just kept everything much cleaner when it comes to the bookkeeping, also German in terms of legality of these things. So and the key there was also, instead of us running after 50 whatever number of people we had as volunteers and trying to get whatever money we should get back from them, having them all having a centralized place they can come to get their money just became just practically a much easier ordeal to deal with, because we could just set up infrastructure for that to happen, and everybody just took the responsibility to come themselves. Yeah, so you're in a circle process where you play around with all of these things, and at that point you want to collect all these responses into a sheet. The ones that are coming from the volunteer program, they come onto a sheet like this. Now I removed all the names and emails, but that's pretty much like you can track of what they paid. We track what they're gonna get paid back and what roles they have, what when are they volunteering, what kind of tasks they're doing. So being able to have this overview is very important. Again, these templates, I'm happy to share them with you. Just reach out to me. You're not going to be secretly added to a newsletter or any shit like that. Just happy to help because I get to learn about your challenges for our software. And I want to leave with one word, what Barbie was saying. And the, a great way for you to just get better at this is obviously talk to other organizers, exchange ideas with them, and sort of figure out what best practices works. And yeah, this way, let's share to grow and create better experiences together. All right. Thanks for listening. I'll see you in the next one.